Picture yourself on the deck of a sleek wooden vessel slicing through the azure waters of the Aegean Sea. The sunlight reflects off the polished bronze helmets of rowers seated below as a steady drumbeat dictates their every stroke. Overhead, gulls circle against a backdrop of rocky islands. The horizon teems with ships, each bristling with oars, sails, and the fierce hopes of city-states locked in mortal rivalry. This scene takes us back to the heart of ancient Greece's naval warfare strategies, a pivotal theater where cunning commanders, state-of-the-art warships, and the unbreakable spirit of maritime tradition redefined the course of Western civilization. Strap in, because we are about to embark on a sweeping voyage through one of history's most transformative epochs of naval power. The annals of ancient Greece are richly adorned with tales of warriors, philosophers, and statesmen who shaped a new dawn in governance, culture, and military innovation. While the famous hoplite phalanx often captures modern imagination, a line of spears and shields marching in unison across dusty battlefields, there is a parallel narrative equally deserving of our fascination: the rise and mastery of Greek naval warfare. Driven by geography, economic aspirations, and relentless competition among city-states, the Greeks developed maritime strategies that would influence future empires far beyond their own age. For centuries, the Greek world was a tapestry of individual polis, independent city-states like Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and others, each with its own ambitions. As commerce and exploration expanded across the Aegean and beyond, controlling the sea became the linchpin for prosperity and power. Over time, the quest to secure trade routes, protect coasts, and project influence fostered an arms race in naval technology. None epitomized this more than the Trireme, a warship whose agile design and lethal ramming capabilities would change the art of war at sea. In this extensive journey, we will delve into how geography shaped maritime possibilities, how naval tactics evolved through trial and error, and how the discipline of rowers and marines converged to form an unmatched fighting force. We'll illuminate pivotal battles like the Battle of Salamis and the epic engagements of the Peloponnesian War, dissecting the plans, maneuvers, and gambles that determined the fate of entire populations. Along the way, we'll spotlight visionary leaders, from Themistocles, the Athenian strategist who championed sea power, to the Spartan admirals who adapted their land-based legacy to challenge Athenian supremacy on the waves. Yet, this is more than a chronicle of battles. Greek naval warfare reveals deeper truths about culture, politics, and the universal human desire for control over one's destiny. At sea, alliances could shift with the tides, city-states could rise or fall in a single campaign, and the ambitions of a few could dictate the experiences of many. We will examine not just the glories but also the struggles, the sweat of rowers chained to their seats, the terror of sea storms, and the harsh reality of limited resources and uncertain supply lines. By the end, you'll come to see why the waters of the Aegean Sea were as pivotal a battleground as the famed plains of Marathon or the passes of Thermopylae. Settle in for a grand odyssey, one that spans centuries and explores the complexities of naval technology, alliances, cunning tactics, and the resilient spirit of ancient Greek mariners who ventured beyond the horizon with little more than wooden hulls, oars, and an unshakable belief in the might of their city-state. Ancient Greece's rugged peninsula and countless islands naturally oriented its inhabitants toward the sea. This archipelagic environment made sea travel not just a choice but often a necessity. Trading in goods like wine, olive oil, and pottery demanded secure maritime routes, while fishing provided a regular source of food. As populations grew, so did competition for resources, prompting voyages across the Mediterranean to establish colonies and expand trade networks. In effect, the sea was the lifeline of communication, commerce, and cultural exchange. Because Greek city-states were separated by mountains on land but connected via waters, local and foreign policy gravitated toward maritime considerations. Athens, with its advantageous position near the Saronic Gulf, transformed rapidly into a naval powerhouse. Corinth, controlling the isthmus between mainland Greece and the Peloponnese, pioneered shipbuilding innovations and thrived on trade. Even Sparta, initially land-focused and reluctant to embrace maritime affairs, was compelled by events to develop a formidable navy. The Greek worldview thus centered on achieving dominance at sea. This was more than just building fleets. It involved training crews, perfecting ship designs, and adopting tactical doctrines that would grant victory in conflicts stretching from the Ionian Sea to the coasts of Asia Minor. Over time, the broadening of Greek horizons, thanks to exploration and commerce, fueled constant refinements in naval architecture and combat maneuvers. What began as simple skirmishes for trade advantage evolved into orchestrated campaigns employing dozens or even hundreds of warships in elaborate formations. Before the rise of the trireme, early Greek warships were often adaptations of trading vessels fitted with minimal weaponry. Over centuries, trial, error, and the crucible of warfare led to the standardization of specialized hulls and improved propulsion. The ultimate result was the trireme, a sleek galley arranged with 3 tiers of oars on each side. This design offered unmatched agility and speed for the era. Commanders could position themselves at the stern, overseeing 170 rowers who worked in choreographed unison to maneuver with precision. Central to trireme tactics was the method of ramming. The prow of the ship featured a reinforced bronze ram that could hole enemy vessels below the waterline when the trireme accelerated under full rowing power. Achieving a perfect strike required not just raw manpower but also the skill to time the approach, angle the ship, and maintain formation with allied vessels. An astute captain could transform a single ramming maneuver into a decisive moment that doomed an entire enemy vessel. However, the trireme was far from a simple war machine. It was an instrument of state policy, demanding considerable investment in wood, metal, and manpower. Each city-state's ability to build and maintain a fleet spoke volumes about its economic power and social structure. Athens famously financed its naval expansion using silver from the Laurion mines, fueling the creation of an immense fleet that would alter the balance of power in the 5th century BCE. The synergy of technology, resources, and political will become a cornerstone of Greek maritime strategy. Few figures epitomize the strategic brilliance of Greek naval warfare more than Themistocles. As a forward-thinking statesman and military leader in Athens, he recognized early on that controlling the sea could make or break the city's prosperity. When a rich vein of silver was discovered near Laurion, Themistocles famously convinced the Athenian assembly to invest the windfall in building a formidable navy, rather than distributing it as dividends among citizens. His foresight proved invaluable when the Persian Empire, under King Xerxes, launched an invasion aiming to subjugate the Greek city-states. In the critical year of 480 BCE, Themistocles orchestrated a plan that would lure the vast Persian armada into the narrow straits of Salamis. Despite being outnumbered, the Greek fleet, spearheaded by Athenian triremes, exploited the cramped waters, turning Persian numerical advantage into a liability. Their larger and less agile ships struggled to maneuver, while the Greek vessels rammed and boarded them with efficiency. The significance of Salamis cannot be overstated. It not only saved the heartland of Greece from occupation, but also demonstrated the tactical potential of well-coordinated naval engagements. Athens rose to an unrivaled position, forming the Delian League, an alliance ostensibly to continue the fight against Persia, but which in practice became the foundation of an Athenian maritime empire. Under the leadership of statesmen like Pericles, Athens leveraged maritime dominance to protect trade, colonize far-flung islands, and enrich its cultural life, all underpinned by a steady flow of tribute from allied or subjugated states. While commanding a trireme might sound glamorous, daily life for the ordinary rower was grueling. Crammed into tight tiered benches known as thranatai, Zygians and thalamians, depending on whether they were on the top, middle, or bottom level, these men rowed for hours at a time. The coxswain would beat a drum or use a chant to keep them in rhythm, as even a momentary lapse could throw off the ship's balance. The smell of sweat and salt water pervaded the cramped interior, and rowers risked blisters, muscle strains, and dehydration under the unrelenting Mediterranean sun. Living conditions were harsh. Freshwater supplies were limited, and there was minimal space to rest or sleep aboard. Rowers were paid by the polis, though not lavishly, and they viewed their duty as both an economic necessity and a civic obligation. Serving in the Navy could elevate a citizen's status, but it also demanded resilience. When battles erupted, rowers had to react swiftly to the booming commands, adjusting speed and direction to execute ramming attacks or escape enemy maneuvers. Above deck, a smaller contingent of Marines, often hoplites themselves, stood ready to repel boarders or take the fight onto enemy decks. Naval archers and slingers could rain projectiles on adversaries at close range. Morale hinged on camaraderie forged through shared hardship. A victorious engagement could stir immense pride, but defeat at sea could mean drowning, capture, or enslavement. Thus, the discipline and spirit among the crew directly impacted a city-state's fortunes during pivotal maritime confrontations. No discussion of Greek naval might is complete without examining the Peloponnesian War, a protracted and devastating conflict between Athens and Sparta, 431 to 404 BCE. Though Sparta boasted the most feared land army in Greece, The early years of the war saw Athens leverage its formidable navy to raid coastal cities, protect vital trade routes, and impose a siege on the Peloponnese by sea. Athenian confidence soared, strengthened by contributions from its allies, many of whom were compelled or inspired to fight under Athens' maritime umbrella. This dynamic advantage, however, did not last indefinitely. Over the course of nearly 3 decades, the fortunes of war fluctuated dramatically. The plague in Athens decimated its population, undermining morale and political stability. Meanwhile, Sparta, recognizing that it needed to counter Athens at sea, transformed its approach to warfare, building a fleet largely financed by Persian gold. This unexpected shift turned the tide, forcing the Athenians to continually defend and rebuild their fleet, even as the conflict sapped their resources. Decisive naval engagements, such as those at Syracuse and Aegospotami, revealed just how vulnerable even a maritime giant like Athens could be when it overextended its reach or lost its careful tactical discipline. In Syracuse, 415 to 413 BCE, Athenian forces failed to retreat in time, resulting in the destruction of much of their fleet. At Aegospotami, 405 BCE, Spartan admiral Lysander secured a sudden, decisive victory by catching the Athenian fleet off guard, effectively sealing Athens' fate. By 404 BCE, Athens surrendered, marking the end of its golden age of naval hegemony and ushering in a new period of Spartan ascendancy, albeit one also shaped by maritime ambitions. Sparta's entry into the realm of naval warfare exemplifies how quickly the Greek maritime chessboard could shift. Historically, Spartans prided themselves on their hoplite tradition and minimalistic lifestyle, eschewing the complexities of naval command. But the Peloponnesian War taught them that victory over Athens demanded controlling the sea. Sparta thus forged alliances with Persia, receiving critical funding that allowed the city-state to commission experienced shipwrights, recruit capable rowers, and train them to challenge Athenian fleets in open water. This shift underscores the fluidity of Greek politics. Alliances like the Delian League, centered around Athens, and the Peloponnesian League, led by Sparta, were never monolithic. Smaller polis often changed sides based on immediate interests, local rivalries, or promises of autonomy. Corinth, a maritime power in its own right, vacillated between supporting Sparta's efforts against Athens and protecting its own trade prerogatives. Such realpolitik also highlighted the precarious balance that city-states had to maintain to survive in a region dominated by a handful of key powers. Spartan naval success was as much psychological as it was strategic. By developing a competent fleet, the Spartans demonstrated that the legendary Athenian naval supremacy could be challenged and broken. Spartan admirals like Lysander became household names, rewriting the narrative that only Athens could reign over the waves. The destructive potential of this rivalry for all of Greece, however, became evident in the war's toll. Entire fleets and coastal cities were lost, populations were displaced, and the classical ideals of unity, celebrated in moments like the Persian invasions, seemed increasingly distant. Naval warfare permeated nearly every aspect of Greek life. In Athens, the reliance on a large navy forged a political environment that favored broader participation of citizens. Rowers came from various social classes, granting them a stake in the state's decisions and reaping them civic rewards. Maritime success propelled Athens to a pinnacle of cultural achievement, reflected in architecture, drama, and philosophy. The long walls, which connected Athens to its harbor at Piraeus, symbolized the city's commitment to a seaborne empire. Conversely, the downfall of Athens following the Peloponnesian War served as a sobering reminder that sea power alone was not invincible. Prolonged warfare bled city-states financially and emotionally. The Greek moral fabric, proud and independent, was tested by betrayals, shifting allegiances, and the deep scars left by blockades and sieges. For communities reliant on trade, losing access to the sea meant economic ruin, population flight, and the erosion of local culture. Perhaps the greatest paradox was that while the Greek naval tradition bound the city-states together through commerce and shared tradition, it also fueled discord. The Aegean world was marked by fierce city-state rivalries, making periods of unity, like the stand against Persia, relatively brief. Still, these alliances, even when fleeting, underscored an awareness that the Greeks, when banded together, could eclipse the might of much larger empires. In the post-Peloponnesian era, the vacuum left by Athenian defeat rapidly invited new contenders. The Ionian cities, freed from the yoke of the Athenian Empire, briefly tasted autonomy but soon found themselves courted, or threatened, by Persia or the new hegemon on the Greek mainland. Naval warfare persisted, although the strategies became more fractured as city-states jockeyed for advantage. Fleets were smaller, often reliant on mercenaries or swift raids rather than the grand campaigns of the previous century. Still, lessons learned from earlier wars remained potent. Captains understood the value of drawing enemy ships into narrow straits, using decoy fleets, or employing night raids to secure quick victories. Innovations in trireme design continued, and a few powers flirted with heavier quadriremes or even quinquiremes, though these larger ships were more popular among emerging hegemonies like Carthage and later, the Romans. This transitional period reinforced the ongoing truth that controlling sea lanes could shift the political map as surely as any land campaign. Whether a city-state aimed to protect crucial grain shipments from the Black Sea, secure tribute from Aegean islands, or project power beyond the Hellenic world, a capable navy remained indispensable. As new leaders emerged, often shaped by the memory of Athens' hubris and Sparta's opportunism, they continued to craft policies centered on controlling coastal regions and shipping lanes. In the mid-4th century BCE, a new power rose in the north, Macedon, under the guidance of Philip II and later his son, Alexander the Great. While much of Alexander's fame stems from his lightning-fast conquests across Persia and into the Indian subcontinent, primarily land campaigns, the shadow of Greek naval tradition still influenced his empire building. Macedonian kings recognized the importance of securing coastlines, forging alliances with maritime cities, and maintaining a loyal fleet to protect supply lines. Alexander's sweeping victories on land overshadowed, for a time, the glory of Greek sea power. Yet even as he marched across Asia, his generals and allied city-states handled maritime operations, ensuring the safe passage of reinforcements, controlling rebellious coastal regions, and collecting revenues from ports. In this sense, the blueprint for a combined land-sea strategy, mastered by Athens, endured. Although naval engagements in Alexander's campaigns are less celebrated than battles like Gaugamela, the reliance on controlling waterways underscored how deeply the Greek maritime mindset had become ingrained in military thought. After Alexander's death, his empire fractured among several diadochi, successor generals, who formed competing Hellenistic kingdoms. Each realm, from the Seleucid Empire in Asia to the Ptolemaic Kingdom in Egypt, inherited aspects of Greek naval practice. Ports such as Alexandria thrived under Hellenistic rule, and Greek-style galleys continued to ply the Mediterranean, bridging cultural exchanges that would shape the ancient world for centuries to come. Across these centuries, ship design and tactical doctrines never stood still. While the trireme remained the benchmark of Greek maritime power, there were experiments with quadriremes, for banks of oars, and quinquiremes, 5 banks, especially in the later Hellenistic period. These larger ships could carry more marines, archers, and catapults, transforming sea battles into near-floating fortresses at times. Although heavier vessels sacrificed some speed and maneuverability, they introduced new layers of strategy, from ranged bombardment to specialized anti-boarding defenses. Yet the Greeks, known for the nimble exploits of triremes, often favored agility over brute force. Commanders refined battle formations, employing multi-line tactics, feigned retreats, and flank attacks to disorient enemy fleets. Communication methods included visual signals via flags or torches, and audible cues like horns or drums. Even with these innovations, orchestrating dozens or even hundreds of ships in real time was an immense challenge, amplifying the importance of pre-battle planning and disciplined crews. Greek naval culture also cultivated an ethos of arete, excellence, among its sailors. Rowers, often overshadowed by hoplites in popular imagination, were nonetheless celebrated for their endurance and skill. Festivals and public honors recognized exceptional service, fostering loyalty among citizens serving at sea. This social dynamic, where maritime service intertwined with civic virtue, stood at the heart of Greek naval policy, ensuring that the grandeur of victory or the bitterness of defeat reverberated through every layer of society. As centuries passed, powers like Carthage, Rome, and various Hellenistic kingdoms adapted Greek naval concepts to their own needs. The Romans, initially a land-based powerhouse, learned the fundamentals of naval warfare from Greek engineers and seamen, applying them during the Punic Wars against Carthage. They introduced the corvus, an innovative boarding bridge, demonstrating how maritime engagements could blend the Greek tradition of ramming with close-quarters infantry combat. Greek city-states themselves continued to wax and wane, but their maritime legacy was embedded in the Mediterranean consciousness. Control of key straits, like the Bosporus, Hellespont, or the Strait of Messina, remained paramount to the ambitions of regional rulers. Echoes of the old Athenian concept that whoever controls the sea controls their destiny resonated beyond the classical period, influencing monarchs, consuls, and emperors who recognized that open waters were highways of empire. The Greeks also pioneered naval architecture and engineering that informed the future. Dry docks, slipways, and harbor fortifications laid the groundwork for advanced ports. The synergy of commerce, innovation, and warfare made the Mediterranean a hotbed of maritime ingenuity. Over time, as new technologies like lateen sails emerged, the foundations laid by the Trireme era continued to guide vessel construction and naval strategy. Stepping back to assess the bigger picture, we see that ancient Greek naval warfare was much more than a series of sea battles. It was a microcosm for how civilizations wrestle with geography, resource distribution, and the universal quest for security and prosperity. The Greeks taught the world that sea power is a multifaceted endeavor, encompassing logistics, training, technological innovation, and the elusive quality of leadership. One paramount lesson is the significance of adaptability. From Athens pivoting to build a massive fleet under Themistocles, to Sparta breaking its land-based tradition to become a naval contender, Greek history abounds with examples of states rising to the challenges of their era. Another is the potency of unity, albeit fleeting, seen when the Greek city-states momentarily banded together against Persia. These instances of cooperation remind us that collective action can stave off even the largest threats, but also that internal rivalries can quickly unravel such alliances. Moreover, the Greek approach underscores the role of morale and human agency. No matter how advanced the ship design or how cunning the plan, success hinged on the rowers who propelled the triremes, the marines who boarded enemy vessels, and the admirals who balanced risk against potential reward. Naval power became both a reflection and a driver of social change, impacting democracy, as in Athens, fostering civic identity, and compelling states to invest in public works that supported maritime endeavors. As we reach the end of our expansive odyssey, let's pause to reflect on the enduring marvel of ancient Greece's naval warfare strategies. Their achievements on the sea shaped the geopolitical map of the classical world and laid foundations that future empires would build upon. From the forging of the mighty triremes to the storied victories at Salamis and the hard-won lessons of the Peloponnesian War, the Greeks illuminated the immeasurable value and cost of maritime supremacy. We've journeyed through the cramped decks of war galleys, tasted the salt air of the Aegean, and glimpsed the strategic brilliance that allowed smaller, agile fleets to overcome overwhelming adversaries. We've also seen how rivalries, hubris, and shifting alliances can upend even the mightiest city-state. It is a testament to the complexity and drama of ancient naval warfare that its stories still captivate us today, carrying timeless lessons for modern societies wrestling with questions of power, identity, and survival. Thank you for accompanying us on this extensive exploration of Greek naval history. If you found this deep dive enlightening, please like this video, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more long-form documentaries that traverse the crossroads of strategy, history, and cultural identity. May the memory of those early mariners, whose rhythmic or strokes and resolute courage once defined an age, continue to inspire us. Farewell, and may your own journeys on land or at sea always chart a course guided by wisdom, preparation, and valor.